Okay, because I've had enough, and I want to talk about this. All right, so I'm gonna play a couple of clips real quick from Asmongold and DM because I love your stuff, and they're talking about the dev response to stash tabs.
You load them and their entire stash filled with all of their items. This is what teams have been working so diligently to improve so that we can have more as soon as possible. Oh my god. What the fuck? Who thought this was a good idea?
Then there's the gamer side of me. That's the second part. That's the consumer. I paid for the game, and it is not my concern as to whether or not it is a development issue. A development issue is the developer's concern. So
let's talk about it. What they're saying is that, one, I think that's a reductive description of probably what the problem is. I don't think what's happening right now is that me being here, that I have this guy's stash loaded, or this person's stash loaded. What it means is this chest that's right here in this world is not just responsible for my inventory, it's responsible for everyone's inventory. So what happens when I click on this is this chest says who clicked on me and what's your stuff, right? Right, and then it loads my stuff. And when this person clicks on it, it's like, who clicked on me? Here's your stuff. In order for that to work, both of our things need to be loaded, right? And everybody who can come to this tab needs to be loaded. If that wasn't the case, if it didn't load until I clicked on it, what would have to happen is this stash tab, when I opened it, a loading screen would have to show up, and then it would have to search through everybody's inventory that's here, or go to the database and be like, what did you put in your stash? Pull that and bring it back. That takes a long time. Nobody likes that. When things happen immediately, that means it's loaded in memory, right? If it's not loaded in memory, that means this would have to go get it and load it up, right? Which also means every time that I take something out of it and put it in there, it has to make a whole process to handle that, right? Now, there are smarter ways to do it than they're doing. But usually what happens is someone said, hurry up. So let me talk about a couple of things about inventory and thinking and like why that takes up space. Let's talk about these 4 tabs here. A lot of people are like, why can't I have a gem tab? Or why can't my materials just have gem tabs? When you make something, right, you want to optimize what it's for and what it does, right? The equipment tab, the consumables tabs, the quest tabs, and the aspect tabs, they are the size that they are and separated not because of what's going in there, but because of the process that you do over them, right? When you have an aspect in here, the only thing you can do with it is take it to the occultist. The occultist is the only thing that cares about what's in here. So you don't have to this can be optimized for just the occultist is going to use it, right? That makes this section faster. And having an occultist needs to know what happens in here, and deal with the aspect part of it, like what aspect can it go on, all those other things. That's more code that makes more things take more time. Your consumables tab are things you can right click and it does something, or something in the world can take it, right? That's what the consumables are for, right? You don't want to, that's different logic that does different thing. A quest is an item you can't interact with or use, and it is consumed via a specific state that the game is in, right? Now, let's talk about a gem, right? A gem does all of these things. Everything that's in here, right? Your equipment tab is every other process, right? I can put gear in here. I can use it. I can go to any vendor and delete it. I can sell it, right? A gem does all of those things. If I put it to another tab, I would be duplicating all the logic that equipment. The only way to make it work right away is duplicating all the logic that's in the equipment tab and putting it in someplace in gems. and adding logic to sort out when I pick up a gem, put it in that tab, along with all of the unnecessary things that the equipment tab can do, because they have to. Because in order for me to be able to pick this up and put it on something, and when I pick it up and all of the things that already have gems unhighlight, right? Because none of that happens when I pick these up, and consumables, nothing changes. And it doesn't, I don't need the logic that's inside of this screen to care about this. All of that has to change, right? There's also the fact that when I have gems in my stash tab, just go faster. I hate horses. Everybody is right about all the things they're saying about horses. That is correct. Horses are, the movement for horses is terrible, and they should do something else. And I also know why they do that. I don't have any gems on my body, which means that the jeweler can see my stash tab, right? And I can do this, and when I make one, it brings it to my inventory, right? That connection with the occultist, which has its own set of things that are disconnected, and being able to see my tab and do the math that is necessary to see whether or not I can craft and upgrade things, that all of that connection, you're going to have to add to this new gem tab that's over here, right? So let's say that solution is that there's a new tab that only has gems in it, right? To replicate what that looks like, let's pretend that this is the tab that happens when I pick something up. So I drop a gem, I pick it up, it goes to this tab. I go to the jeweler can read what's in there and do that. And when I go to socket things into my things, all that logic is there. Now let's talk about what's in your materials folder and why that can't just happen right away. There is nothing I can grab from my materials folder, right? I can't pick anything up. I can't use it. A vendor has to interact with it, right? A vendor is the only person who can utilize what's in my materials tab. You want them to put your gems in here. So that means now this needs to change to something that I can pick up and grab and drag over here. Or they have to come up with a whole new UI for socketed things, or that means I would only be able to go to the jeweler, and I would have to have a third thing that says add gems to these different things, right? Which one do you want them to do, right? If they do that, then what happens? So all of those problems need to be solved and need to be figured out. And on top of that, let's think about all of the gems are also something that affect your damage and affect your player, right? Which means here are all the systems that this is tied into. The number that's in here, the items that are on your list, your stats that you have, the vendors being able to utilize and use them. They are dropped by multiple different things that go into different places. So when they're dropped on the floor, that has to know to move it to a different tab to be able to handle that. I can sell them. That means the other vendors can see them and be able to use them. All of those systems, if I change something about the way gems are picked up, sorted, put into my inventory, it is possible that all of those systems are affected, right? There's a beautiful world where these things are architected in a way where they're decoupled so that doesn't happen. But the only way to know that for sure is to test it, right? So what would it look like to test every possible thing that a gem can do, right? You want to check that if there's a new tab, that when I pick it up, this unhighlights and does that there's no duplication, that it knows the difference, that I can make sure that I can't override the things that like I was able to do before. Whatever new UI that they use, everything I could do with gems before works the same way. What do I do with the gems that have already been in people's stash tabs? How do I have to go write code that has to search through everyone's stash and all of the stash tabs that they have and move them to wherever they're supposed to be moved to. If they get moved to the materials list, for example, and then someone needs to literally with the new system run out into the world and find a iron ore vein and get a gem out of it and put it in and see if that works. And then I need to socket gems into all types of things. I need to check that the level requirements all stay the same, right? If I change these to a new tabs, can a level 35 rogue go ahead and make a pristine gem instead? Did that create a bug that I didn't think about? All of that takes time. And if they don't take the time to do that, everyone's going to yell, right? And in the meantime, just going back to the stash tab problem, if they add a bunch of stash tabs into it and people start filling those stash tabs with tons and tons of inventory, how do you want them to deal with the new performance problem that they have, right? Which is, how do I make it so that this chest is performant, right? And not only is this chest performant, that a chest isn't really just a chest, right? It's your inventory that you can only see when you click on a certain thing, because anywhere I go has the same inventory in it, right? And in order for that to be performant and fast, that chest needs to know everybody's items that are within range to click it, right? Now, like I said, there's smarter ways to do it, but they want to avoid people having a loading screen when they click on a chest. And so the solution they came up with was preload everybody's stash that is within range of it, is what I think he means by you load everybody who's near, whenever a player's there, you load every player near you, right? Because this stash tab, this chest needs to have everybody's items in here so that me and 5 other people can click on it and we can all see it. Otherwise, I would have to wait in line for this to do this, or it would have to get it from your database, the database with that information, which takes longer. And you would sit here and it would have to load and you'd have to wait for it to load and you'd hate that. So that's probably why someone made that choice. Probably because someone said, do it in a hurry. And the fastest thing you could probably come up with is, well, we could just load everybody that's in range in memory, and then it would be in memory. But that, and I'm sure a developer said, but that means, like, literally, we can only have 16 people in a shard at a time, which is something people complain about, and we can only have 1 stash tab, maybe 2, maybe 2. And if we do 2, we have to come up with some ways of consolidating some things smarter, right? So that's why that information is that way, and that's the way it's happening. So this is your Diablo 4 developer defender. I'm happy to do these. Please leave in the comments any other development decision that you think is dumb, and I will give you the reasoning of why it's that way, or at least my opinion of the reason that's the way. I'm not an actual Blizzard developer, but I've been programming for over 10 years, and I dabble in indie game development, and I have tried to make RPG games, and I can explain to you why it's like, I can talk about why balancing is so hard. I can talk about why a lot of the things that everybody complains about, why they take time and why they can't happen immediately. But if you want to see that, subscribe, please leave in the comments whether you agree or disagree. Everybody has full permission to react to this video as much as they want. Thank you, Asmongold. Thank you for DM for, well, I didn't ask permission, but I'm using your videos and I appreciate the context that they give. And I love your stuff. All right. So I'll see you on the YouTubes or in Sanctuary. I'm loving the game. I think it's great. I think the developers are doing awesome. I think the dev team is doing awesome. They're communicating really, really well. And they're dealing with an onslaught of unfair assessments from people who don't understand why you can or can't do these things. So kudos to y'all. I think you're doing great. All right. Peace.